process.
All right. Well, with that, good day, everybody. Good new op day. Welcome to the Wholesale Real Estate Investing Program number 234 by SAHA. That is us, sellahousearizona.com. And we are here today on a glorious new op day AM in March 14th of 2016. And you guys know what we do on new op days. It's negotiation new op day, and we talk about Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People book, because this is our negotiation Bible, pretty much. This is how we go out and we talk to we take the information in here, and this is what we use to go out and talk to our sellers and our buyers and our investors and our team and anyone else that we have a relationship with, because all we ever do is have meetings. And but what's in this book? One of the things we always say is real estate equals relationships, and what's in this book will help you with the relationships side of that. So with that, hey, I'm Paul Romero, hanging out here from Phoenix, Arizona. Please let us know where you're hanging out from when you jump on this video here as you're watching. We always like to know where you guys are hanging out from, who is interested in the property noodler system, and just tell us who you are, what's going on, ask us a question. We got the chat open. And with that, I got my biz partner here, John Leister. Good day, John.
How are you this morning, Paul? And thanks for having me on. It is a new op day, and I love coming on here on these hangouts on new op day morning. I'm sorry, my brain is like working real slow right now. I didn't drink enough coffee yet, maybe, or something. But I love coming on these hangouts, starting my session this way with these positive talks about how to deal with people, because you know what I'm going to be doing all week if I'm going to be making money? So I'm going to be working with people. And if I'm going to be working with people all week, I want to know how to work with people to win their favor, to win their influence, and to win their friendships. And there's a lot of things that go into that. And one of the best ways for me to get my week started off, or my session started off, is to join Paul on these hangouts, on these real estate hangouts, and discuss the chapters of this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Because you know what? Repetition is the mother of learning. And we're going to continue probably in perpetuity to go through a chapter of this book once every week, 52 times a year. And there ain't that many chapters in the book. So what happens when we complete the book? Well, we're going to turn right back to the beginning and start over again, because the knowledge that's contained in this book, which I've probably read this book 4 times in the last 3 years. I mean, look at it. The cover's falling off. The binding's breaking. It's loaded with notes and underlines and highlights. But you know what? I don't want a new copy of the book, because it has my notes and my highlights. And every time you read a book like this, you're going to pick up something new. This isn't a one and done book. This isn't a Stephen King novel that you're going to read one time, put down, and get to the next novel, the next Tom Clancy book. This is a study guide, and it's a fun book. And this is something that really could take a lifetime to master, quite honestly. There's never a point in your life where you know it all when it comes to the psychology of other people. And that's the amazing thing, that there's that opportunity to learn and grow and figure something new out every single day. And by going back and reading the book over and over and over and over and over again, every time you go through it, you're going to pick up a new gold nugget you can apply to your relationships with other people, to the way you approach people about your business, and all of that. That's going to help you improve. So with that, welcome. We are into part 3 of the book, chapter 2, entitled A Sure Way of Making Enemies and How to Avoid
It. Yeah, you know what's really awesome about this book is I think after you read it the first time, or after you read it each time, the little Dale Carnegie fairies come and they rewrite the whole thing for you for the next time you read it.
A different book every time I read it. I don't understand why.
So yeah, part 3 of the book now that we're into is how to win people to your way of thinking And obviously, how to win people to your way of thinking is a very powerful thing to do, because obviously, especially in wholesale real estate, you want people, to join your way of thinking if you're going to get them to, give you a deal on a piece of property. And what he starts off this chapter with actually is a couple of don'ts, a couple of things not to do, before he starts transitioning over into some things to do. And obviously the first one, chapter 1, that we talked about already, was you cannot win an argument. And now a sure way to make an enemy here, moving into the next chapter, is all about never alienating people by trying to prove that you are right and they are wrong. That's the big message for this second chapter is, even if you flat out know 100%, and you could get 1,000 people in 2 seconds to back you up on it, and somebody says something that you all know is wrong, there's no need to force that down their throat and prove to them that they are wrong. In doing so, you make them feel small and insignificant and stupid, and they just, it's not, you're not giving them a good feeling about themselves. Who cares? Okay, that person's wrong. I mean, is it really? I mean, yes, if you prove that person to be wrong and that you are right, sure, you're going to feel good. And it's just like, it goes back to just what the first chapter says about arguments. He says that when you lose an argument, you lose an argument. When you win an argument, you lose an argument. Because when you win an argument, that other person, you have not made that other person feel good about themselves. You've made that other person sort of maybe build some resentment against you for, exposing and winning that argument. And the same thing goes when you try to prove somebody wrong. When you lose in proving somebody wrong, you're wrong, you lose. And when you win in proving somebody wrong, you lose, and all pretty much for the same kinds of reasons. And that's why we titled these last 2 shows here the same thing. You're wrong, I'm right. How does that make you feel? Part 1 and part 2. So I just wanted to kind of give the overview of where this chapter goes, what this is all about, and I'm sure John wants to jump into a couple of little idiosyncrasies of this now.
I like the way, I love the way this book is written, because it shares real life stories about famous people that even 100 years almost, 70 years or so that this book was written ago. The famous people at the time, politicians at the time that he's referring to in this book, most of us should have heard of them. It'll be pretty scary to me to think that the millennials who may be reading this book may never have heard of a lot of the political figures that are being discussed here and used as examples, but that makes me question our history and the way people are educated in our society, but that's another topic. I love the way he lays this out and he starts the book, because he starts off right with an example here about Theodore Roosevelt. And when he was in the White House, he confessed that he could be right 75% of if he could be right 75% of the time, he could reach the highest measure of his expectation. It goes on to say that if that was the highest rating that one of the most distinguished men of the 20th century could hope to obtain, what about you and me? And if you could be sure of being right only 55% of the time, you may go down to Wall Street and probably make $1 million a day. If you can't be sure of being right even 55% of the time, the question is, why should you tell other people they are wrong? Think about that. Most people won't. Most people are wrong half the time that their mouths are open, and I'm guilty of it too. Paul's guilty of it too. But people are very prideful, right? So what would be the point if you're having a conversation with somebody and they're wrong about a little factoid or a little something, what's the main reason why you would actually challenge somebody and feel that you have to prove them wrong? Is to make yourself feel better. But if you're trying to win friends and influence people, it's not about how you feel. Why do you have to prove yourself? Why do you have to make yourself feel better by putting down others? That's a self-confidence question. That's a psychological question I'm not getting into. I'm being more hypothetical and facetious than anything else. But think about that. When somebody challenges you or tells you you're wrong, how does that make you feel? Now think about that. Now, when you're doing business or negotiating or working with a seller, or trying to discipline your child, or win an argument with your spouse, or get through to a friend, if it makes you feel bad to be proven wrong, well, then it must make others feel bad to be proven wrong. And how do you feel about that person when they prove you wrong? Not good. So how are they going to feel about you when you prove them wrong? Not good either. So you see how the normal way of doing things is what's in it for me. You have to remember that when you're working with somebody else, you have to think in terms of what's in it for them, because that's all they care about. That's it. Bottom line. And I'm just going to read a little bit more of this next chapter and then toss it back over to Paul to elaborate here so we can get further into this. But he says, you can tell people they are wrong by a look or an intonation or a gesture. So keep in mind how powerful body language is too, just as eloquently as you can in words. And if you tell them they are wrong, do you make them want to agree with you? Never. For you have struck a direct blow at their intelligence, judgment, pride, and self-respect, and that will make them want to strike back, and it will never make them want to change their minds. So that's right at the beginning of the chapter. So you can see the direction this is doing. And as we go through this chapter, he kind of gets into the idea of how to win an argument without winning an argument, how to get your point across to someone who's in disagreement without it being a disagreement. There's a right way and there's a wrong way, and proving someone wrong, challenging someone, it does nothing but belittle them. And be very mindful of not just your words, but also your body language as well. Very important things.
Exactly, and that was the exact next thing that I wrote down. Even the reason why you don't, this is the bottom line. This is the bottom reason why you don't want to, jump into the whole arena of trying to prove somebody, when you hear somebody mention, when you recognize that somebody is wrong, that you don't want to jump in to the bullpen, so to speak, and try to prove to them that they are wrong, why they are wrong, et cetera, and so on. It basically comes down to the fact that even if you do so, and this goes back to what I just said about the arguments, that when you lose, you lose, and when you win, you lose, because even if you do prove this person wrong, you have not changed their mind. In fact, the only thing that you have done is probably gotten them to solidify what they believed in the first place even more. So you haven't even weakened their position in themselves. You've strengthened within themselves. You've strengthened their position of being incorrect. So he goes on to say that you never want to begin by announcing, "I'm going to prove so and so to you," or because that I'm going to prove you wrong, so to speak, because that's tantamount to saying that I'm smarter than you are, and I'm going to tell you a thing or two and make you change your mind, and it's never going to happen. It's a challenge that arouses opposition and makes the listener want to it's a challenge that makes the listener want to battle with you before you even start. It's difficult enough to change a person's mind, so why make it harder by handicapping yourself? If you're going to prove anything, don't let anybody know that you're doing it. Do it so subtly and adroitly that no one will feel that you are doing it. And then there's a couple of quotes here I want to read off. It says, that was expressed succinctly by Alexander Pope. And what I say was, if you're going to try and change somebody's mind, if you're going to try to prove anything, do it so subtly and so adroitly that no one will feel that you are doing it. And as Alexander Pope said, men must be taught as if you are not, men must be taught as if you have taught them not, and things unknown proposed as things for God. So if you, that's a really, really powerful one right there, because if you can get somebody to think that something that they have no clue about is something that they used to know but forgot, oh yeah, now I remember that. Now you're right. They'll tell you you're right. Over 100 years ago, Galileo said, "You cannot teach a man anything. You can only help him to find it within himself," which follows right back to what that other thing just said. If you can show them that they know this, that they used to know this, or whatever the case might be, and then now they remember about that, all of a sudden they'll proclaim, "Oh, you are right. I remember now. Yes, that is the way. I'm smart enough. I knew that." All of that sort of an approach. Lord Chesterfield said to his son, "Be wiser than other people if you can, but do not tell them so." And Socrates repeated to his followers in Athens, "Only thing I know, and that is," wait a minute, "one thing only I know, and that is that I know nothing."
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was paused off there a minute, Paul. I was looking for the definition of where the word educate comes from, and I can't think of the word, but this reminds me of that word, because the definition of the word educate is to give intellectual, moral, and social instruction to someone, especially a child, typically at a school or university. The very definition of that word educate, which is why I think we have such a poor education system in the United States of America, because you don't educate someone by, as this definition is, give them intellectual, moral, and social instruction to somebody. The actual word educate, and it comes from like edure or udicere. I can't think of the word. It comes from a Latin word.
Educo or educere.
Educere, which actually means to draw out from within. So the proper way to actually educate somebody is not to tell them, to tell it to them, but is to guide them to come to the realization on their own. And that's kind of what he's suggesting here in this chapter on how to win an argument or get someone thinking your way. This is the big secret right here. It's not to tell them, "I'm right, you're wrong, this is how it is, listen to me, thank you, I've won." No. You could do all that, and the result is going to be no, you lose, because they don't like you. If you want someone to win your way or favor, you do it in a more subtle way, as he mentions here in the book, and each one of those quotes that Paul shared with us, you do it in such a way where you draw it out of the person. You lead them to that conclusion, so they come to it on their own. Then they like you because you feel comfortable. You've had conversation. You made them feel open. You've made them feel valid in their feelings and in their thoughts. And I think that when you were reading through that, Paul, it reminded me of where the word educate comes from, and really why our education, I think, in America is so bad, because people don't critically think really in this country. We're taught actually not to critically think. We're taught to memorize facts and opinions and just be dictated to. And when it comes to a social setting outside of school, we've learned through instruction. Therefore, we think that to win people and make people think we're great is just to regurgitate to them how it is that we've been instructed our whole life. And in fact, it's damaging to your ability to win and influence people, because the right way to get your point across is by drawing the answer out of them, leading them to the answer without confrontation or instructing them. Does that all make sense?
100%. We're not going to get anywhere close to finishing this chapter because it's so freaking deep. And you know what? You said something there that is the most powerful piece of all of this, and that is leading them to come to the conclusion on their own. Because the way that this piece of gray meat between your ears works is that when somebody, and what our mentor says this all the time, and when it comes to the arena of sales, and that, you know, it's when you say something, or when I say something, it means one thing, but when you say something, it means everything. And that goes to the fact that when words come out of my mouth, your mind hears those words. It will deposit those words into the subconscious mind, but it labels them with the tag of Paul's opinion. Okay, that's it right there. I just said that, you know, hey, I just said the sky is brown, and you just put into your mind Paul's opinion, sky is brown, right? You might have no idea. Or let's say the sky in China is brown. Whatever it is, you have no idea, but it's a piece of information that you gathered. It just went into your subconscious mind. It's staying there. It's never leaving. It's always in there. But it's just a piece of information for the mind to search and look at later. That's all it is. Now, when you actually go to China and you see that the sky is brown, and now you yourself, the words come out of your mouth, whether to somebody, you know, verbally, live, aloud, or silently to the little man up here, because you always got the little conversation going on up here with that guy. And whenever you talk to that guy, everything that you say to that guy, you know what he says? He says, oh, original thought by Joe, stamped undeniable truth. Let's file this away, and there it is. Now we know. That's how it is, right there. Boom. So when you're sitting there talking to somebody and you're trying to convince them that they are wrong, they're only hearing that's your opinion, that's your opinion, that's your opinion, that's your opinion. I'm still right, I'm still right, I'm still right, I'm still right. Undeniable truth, undeniable truth, undeniable truth. But when you can get them to say it to themselves or to say it out loud, when you can direct them to the process of them saying, well, you know what? I was thinking that, you know, the sky in China was blue just like it is everywhere else, but I remember reading in a history book one time that they were talking about, because of whatever happens over here, that in a certain area in China, the sky is always brown, or whatever the case might be. And I mean, whatever that is, or you know, you're right. I remember so-and-so said they went there, and they said, you know, whatever it is, however it is that they come about saying it, when they themselves say the sky in China is brown, boom, their minds allows them to stamp that as an undeniable truth. And now it becomes real. Now they can agree with you. Now they have changed their mind. And that's the only way that it can happen, is by those words being spoken either loudly or silently to themselves, and allowing the mind to stamp it as their own unique idea and undeniable truth.
Absolutely there. We won't even, we'll definitely be talking about this chapter next week. Like every chapter of the book, it's a powerful concept here. There was another little point I wanted to make. Sorry, Paul. My book just closed. Here we go. Here we go. Wait for it. Chesterfield, I've done people for quite some time. Patrick, maybe wrong for the facts. Yeah, you know, he goes into a little further in the book too, in this chapter, which I really like, to kind of explain two ways to kind of win an argument, to disarm the person you're talking to. You know what? He says it right here. there's magic, positive magic, in such phrases as, I may be wrong, I frequently am, let's examine the facts. That's so powerful because most people never admit they are wrong. And if you're in a disagreement with somebody, the best thing to do, and this is really good for married people to kind of understand here, help you out, to help smooth down tensions in the home, great negotiation too, by the way, is just to admit you don't know something. It disarms the person you're talking to. It makes them like you because they're thinking, well, this person's honest. Okay, I apologize. Me and Paul are arguing about something. I know I'm right and I know Paul's wrong and I'm 100% sure. So what good would it be if I say to Paul, I know I'm right and I know you're wrong. I'm 100% sure you're wrong. You're wrong. Even if part of him knows he may be wrong, he's going to want to argue with me about it. He's not going to want to listen to me because his pride is insulted. His intellect is hurt. His confidence is challenged. People don't like that. Rather, if I know I'm right and I know Paul's wrong, I can start the conversation off with a phrase just like that. And so it's like, you know what, Paul, I may be wrong because I frequently am wrong. So I'm not saying you're wrong, but I had a different understanding of the situation, but I could be wrong. Let's look at the facts. Let's look at some of the surrounding facts and see if we can agree on a solution here to that. Something like that's going to be much more powerful. Even if you know you're wrong, you can admit that, hey, I am sometimes wrong. Nobody's perfect. Let's look at the situation and examine it and see if we can come up to a conclusion we can both settle on. I mean, that's a much more powerful way of winning an argument or at least getting the conversation started.
Yeah. I had a thought there to go off of that, but it kind of fleeted. But, this chapter, like I said, we're only, a page and a half into this thing out of 6 or 7 pages here. So the principle says, show respect for the other person's opinions. Never say you're wrong. And see what the word they used right there? The other person's opinions. Just as you know to respect just as you know to respect that other person's opinions, understand that they only hear your words as your opinion, and your opinion doesn't mean anything as far as you're concerned, as far as they're concerned. I mean, you're sitting here right now saying your opinion is wrong. They're saying the same thing. Your opinion is wrong. So very, very powerful, very, very powerful stuff here. We didn't really even get into associating this to wholesale real estate as of yet, but I think you guys can sort of connect the dots as to how not trying to prove a seller wrong about something, but bringing them around to seeing your way of thinking. Oh, that's what this whole section is about, isn't it? How to win people over into your way of thinking. Yes, by bringing them around to see your way of thinking, to see the repairs that are needed, the cost of what's going on here, the damage that's being happened from lack of activity, whatever the case might be, but to bring them around to being able to see that from your point of view and have them now say, oh, wow, I never really thought of that, or you know what, I never really looked at it that way, or you know what, I didn't realize that there was so much problems going on here, or oh my God, how did it get so bad the last time, these kinds of things, you get them to say that, and now all of a sudden, that low offer that you were about to make is starting to look a little bit more attractive to this person. So that's kind of how this can tie into the power of wholesale real estate, and how the power of this book and how the power of the information in this chapter can be utilized in a wholesale real estate negotiation situation. And that's what this book and these new updates are all about, is wholesale real estate negotiation situations, whether that be with a seller or whether it be with a a buyer, or whether it be with an investor, or whether it be with a realtor, or whether it be with an attorney or an accountant or a guy on the street, or who knows who. But everything is negotiations because everything's a meeting, right, John?
Everything is a meeting.
Why
Yes.
why don't you give us a final thought, and we can get out of here for the day.
My final thought on the today is just, oh man, wow. I have a lot of thoughts on what we just went over because this stuff is so powerful. You know what? For those of you who don't have a copy of the How to Win Friends and Influence People book, my thought is this. My top 3 books I would recommend to any person starting out as an entrepreneur looking to build their business, whether you're in network marketing, whether you're in wholesale real estate, whether you're doing the We Buy diabetic test strips, whether you're own a contracting business, a consulting business, quite frankly, whatever business you're in, an entrepreneur. And even if you're not in business for yourself, you just get up and go to your job every day that you love, and you've got to deal with your boss. You're going to deal with your coworkers. You're going to deal with your children, your spouse, your boyfriend, girlfriend, your friends. This is a book that can change your life, and your ability to communicate and win friends and influence people should get a copy of this book. And Paul, did you notice on my tagline there, I switched it up right now at the end of the show, and there's a website, https://vimeo.com//69772274. If you don't have a physical copy of that book, you can go to that website right there, and it's about 8 hours of material, but the whole book is for free online audio version. So you go to that link, that's going to take you to part 1 of 8 parts of the audio version of this book right here. So there is no excuse. If you're watching this hangout, if you're on Paul's and I's team, this is required, and you don't have the money to go buy the book, there's no excuse you can't start getting knowledge from the book, because you can watch the hangouts every new update where we go over a chapter. We have an open invitation to anyone who wants. All you got to do is email us at propertynoodlers@gmail.com, or leave a comment, or somehow get in touch with us with your contact information, and you can participate in this hangout. In fact, we encourage people to participate, because the more minds, the more different points of view, the more powerful this stuff's all going to be. So with that being said, I have a phone call I must take. I'm going to toss it back over to Paul to give us the Napoleon Hill prayer and close us out of here. And I will see you all back here on Wednesday for another hangout.
Can that be downloaded onto an MP3 or whatever, iPod or whatever you want to call it?
Probably, yes.
Awesome. So there you go. Go download it and play it in your car all day long, instead of listening to that hip hop, reggae, rock and roll, BS news talk, whatever kind of crap. I'm not calling music crap. I like music, but instead of spending all your time just listening to entertainment stuff, spend your time listening to some educational stuff. With that, everybody, universe, I ask not for more riches, but for more wisdom with which to create better use of the riches given to me at birth, consisting of the power to control and direct my own mind to whatever end I might desire. Everybody go out and make it a great new op day. Have a great session, and we will see you back here on Wisdom Wednesday, where you're going to get something pretty powerful. Don't know what it is, but it'll be pretty powerful.